Want to call this June 19th Rules Committee to order. Melvina, if you would you give invocation, please?
Edora glande hes se vi til helige handes geatino. Nivna det dosta is killed or hes ko hig dogi lamstane hen he ostjel nage hes. Nevi generally skasta ni hevi skier no ni do hes do you dage. No le doga dage you sesti. Father, we just thank you for this day. We just thank you for all your blessings, Lord, that you brought us back together. Lord, thank you for the safe trip that you gave us last week, and we just give all thanks unto you. Be with us and guide us and protect us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Shelley, would you do roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Joe Deere. Keith Austin. Here. Danny Callison. Here. Julia Coates. Here. Sean Crittenden. Here. Mike Dobbins. Here. Rex Jordan. Here. Johnny Kidwell. Here. Daryl Legg. Wes Snowfire. Here. Dora Petskowski. Here. Joshua Sam. Here. Melvina Shotpouch. E.O. Smith. Here. Condessa Teehee. Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
Okay, if everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes, could I have a motion, please?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, first up on reports from the Marshal Service. That's not Shannon Buell, is it?
Sure. I don't claim to be Shannon today. Good morning.
Morning.
So guys, if you don't have any questions over the reports that you got, I have a couple of announcements that I'll get to. Shannon's out of town. He's at a training. I think it's in Utah. But I've noticed this month that we've got a lot more community patrols. If you've kind of seen that part of it. We've got quite a few newer officers, and we're revising our field training marshal program. It's not a field training officer program anymore, so they had their first meeting today, and we're kind of getting some stuff ironed out. A lot of it is getting in the communities more so right now, focused. And so we're kind of working on that. I will be traveling out to Artesia, New Mexico to see your son graduate, your other son graduate from Artesia, New Mexico out there, Cale. Looking forward to that. And there's a couple other tribal police officers that are out there too that work for the Justice Services side of the house. And that's Dustin Proctor. And is the other, I'm trying to think of the other young man's name that's out there with him right now. That doesn't come to me right now. But they come back and handle most of the court procedures and a lot of the transports and things like that, and bailiff functions for the tribe right now that's going on with. Other than that, we had a big sex offender compliance check that took us a couple of weeks that month. We did 180 throughout the 14 counties of more or less going on and checking to see where everybody's supposed to be. To my understanding, they only missed about 6 of them, and they were following up on those after that big structured thing happened. Another thing that they surprised me with this morning was last week I had the opportunity to go to Career Services and speak to the summer interns, and I have one here with me today if she would come up here. This is Lauren Wilkie. She's from the Westville region. Her interest is in criminal justice and kind of the forensic side of the house. So she's kind of a shadowing along with me today, and then she's going to move around to the other pieces underneath the Office of the Marshal. If you'd like to introduce yourself again there.
Hello, I'm Lauren Wilkie. I'm from Westville, Oklahoma. I just graduated, and I'm going to be attending NSU in the fall.
Good deal. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
See, I thought you were going to put her on
See,
the spot.
I thought about it, but
Yeah,
I'm not a mean person.
Yeah, no. Do you have any questions from the counselors for me?
Do we have any questions for Marshal Roach? Danny?
Yes, sir. The office at Pryor at Cherokee Heights, is it progressing, or is it at a standstill, or?
It is progressing. So part of the hard work up there is internet has been a real problem. The building didn't have internet when we inherited it, and a lot of the things as far as our software for crime reporting and things like that have been hindered with no internet. We're working on that. Also, the locks, instead of a more of a standard, have to have a key to get in the front door. We're moving towards the electronic locks like we use Cherokee Nationwide. That's taken a little bit of time. There are officers stationed up there, and some of the other departments, I think one fire has an advocate that reports to there now, and Justice Services has a person working up there too for the probation side of the house. And I have 3 officers that primarily work out of there. It's a little bit hindered. We're trying to get there with it. We had some trouble with some vandalism up in that area, but the Housing Authority did too, and I think the juveniles that were doing that, they've identified them and have got a hand on that now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Austin.
Marshal Roach, you said that there's quite a few new officers. How many do we have now?
57.
57, okay. And even though I know your last name's Roach, would you mind what's your name and title, just so that we know who we're talking to here?
My full name is Paul Michael Roach.
Paul?
I'm the Executive Director of the Marshal Service. My rank is Colonel. My job is Chief of Police for the Marshal Service.
Excellent, thank you.
I report to Shannon. I refer to him as government.
Just good to know who we're talking to. Thanks.
EO?
I'm just going to say it's good to see some marshal services down in Sequoia County. I had people make observations, and I've seen it myself, that there for a while we'd never seen any, and it really looks a lot better, especially with some of the stuff been going on with the ticket writing and all that. So appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. I'll also have 2 liaisons for the casinos, too. So if any of you guys know Gary Cunningham, I know him as Hoss, and John Ketcher. I have a District 1 and District 2, like you have in your format over here for north of 412, south of 412. And we've had the opportunity to have some liaison-type positions happening, and they've been taking care of that for me, try to keep the communications open with the cross-step agencies right now, and that's been very successful. And also, we keep getting good applicants from down in your neck of the woods, so getting them here, and they know that area really well, and they like to work down there with those other agencies very well.
Anybody else? The other marshal who's in Artesia is Marshal Little Dave.
That's it, Braden Little Dave
Yep,
from
Braden.
Kenwood area.
Yep, Kenwood boy.
Mhm.
So, well, I'd like to say that you getting more people out in the communities is a big deal. Probably one of the most important deals I think that the Marshal Service can do is really buy into community policing. The public starts to see you, and they know your name, they start to trust you. You learn a lot more things, but that presence is so important because it does give people a good feeling of safety when they see us down there. And we've never done this before. So, I think this is one of the biggest things that you guys could do as far as the Marshal Service, showing that, hey, because of McGirt, here we are, this is what we're doing. We're working to put more people on the street, working to keep you all safe, and we want to know who you are, and we want to know your problems in your communities, and that you can trust us to tell us, and we'll do our best to, help you. So, monster deal. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. With that, good report. Be nice to your intern, and
Yes,
have
sir.
a good day. All right, next we have from the Office of the Attorney General, Sarah Hill.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm going to give a little bit different report than I usually give because I know you've got a lot to do today, and I really have one topic of interest I think that everyone's going to want to hear about. And even if you don't, I'm going to tell you anyway.
Yeah.
Is the Brackeen decision that we got from the United States Supreme Court. So I know a lot of you are familiar with it. I've been talking about it at multiple council meetings. We've been waiting for a long time for this decision. As you may recall, this case began in Texas in a federal district court. Several non-Indian adoptive parents went to the court and challenged the constitutionality of ICWA on a number of different levels. And they were successful in front of the district court, went up to the Fifth Circuit. The panel ruled against the district court or reversed the district court. And then it went en banc to the entirety of the Fifth Circuit for a rehearing, and several of you were at that hearing. I remember that day, and I remember several. I know Dora was there, Councilwoman Patskowski was there, and several other people were there as well. And it was a split decision. They upheld it on some grounds, but they did do some damage to the law in other ways. And so Everybody appealed it. The tribes appealed it, the United States appealed it, the adoptive parents appealed it, everybody appealed it up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And we got our decision last week, and it was a absolute victory for the tribes and for Indian children and for Indian country. It was a 7-2 decision, which everyone was really pleased to see. There's a lot of 5-4 in our courts these days, and so to see 7-2 come out in favor of ICWA and have some really good, strong language from a justice whose Indian law decisions are growing. That's Amy Coney Barrett. She's one of the Supreme Court justices. She wrote the opinion in this case. And it was good to see another justice take up the cause of Indian country's ICWA. She went through in some detail, and the broad scope of it is there was a challenge to Congress's power. Does Congress have the power to legislate on this topic? And the states argued. Oklahoma filed an amicus brief in opposition to the tribes in this case under the previous Attorney General. And the states were arguing, well, this really, issues of child custody are usually matters of state law. And so the United States does not have the power to invade into the state's authority in this way. And Justice Coney Barrett absolutely batted that aside and said, no, Congress has plenary power here. This is well within Congress's authority to enact this law. There were also other issues that were raised about what they call anti-commandeering. So the United States typically cannot tell state executive branch and legislative branches cannot force them to carry out federal laws. But of course, state courts have to follow federal law. And so she also brushed all of those aside and said this is not commandeering. To the extent that the state is required to do anything, it's not anything more than a private party would be required to do in an adoption or in a guardianship. And so it's not targeted at the states. And states, you absolutely do have to follow these requirements of the Indian Child Welfare Act. There were 2 issues that were left. The tribes were still victorious on it because the court found that they lacked standing, that the state of Texas and the adoptive parents lacked standing to challenge it on equal protection basis. And in this argument, the adoptive parents in the state of Texas were arguing that it basically violated equal protection because it was a racially based law, that it treated people differently based on their race. And of course, we all know it's not about race. The Cherokee Nations are a racially diverse place. It's about citizenship in a political entity, which is what tribes are. But the court didn't address that and left the door open on future challenges potentially to that, although I think it will be difficult for them, and they're facing a 7-2 decision in this case. So I hope that, although I never think for a second that people are going to be dissuaded from challenging the law, I'm sure we'll have many challenges in the future. It is great and a huge relief to be able to put this challenge behind us and to see the law reinforced in important ways by the U.S. Supreme Court. I will say that there are so many people that are responsible for this victory, and it is an Indian country victory. The Cherokee Nation was not the only tribe. It was the Cherokee Nation, the Oneida Nation, the Morongo Band of Mission Indians, Quinault Indian Nation, and the Navajo Nation were all parties to this case. And there were also hundreds of other tribes that filed amicus briefs, and there was a lot of advocacy in Indian country on this case. Also, the United States came into this case, and argued in front of the Supreme Court on behalf of ICWA in support of it, and that was really critical. But in our corner of the universe, I think I would be remiss if I did not say, all of you are responsible in your own ways for this victory because you support the work that the Indian Child Welfare Department of the Cherokee Nation does. You support the work of the AG's office, and certainly the principal chief and his administration are responsible for this as well. And so I want to give credit to all the people to whom it is due, and there are many people to whom it is due in this. And I don't want to leave out, of course, the Indian child welfare workers. They're the ones who received that notice on that particular child in this case, in the Brackeen case. They're the ones that responded to that notice like they do in thousands of notices that they get every day. So I would hate for the work that they do to ever be overlooked in all of this. But of course, I have to also be sure and call out the lawyers who did such great work in this case, including our own Miss Chrissy Ross, who anytime the Indian Child Welfare Act is threatened, I think she gets like a vibration in the universe that tells her it's time for her to get to work. And she works extremely hard on these cases and worked quite hard in this one. with the outside counsel to make the argument what it was. And then our outside counsel in this case, Kate Fort, who's the director of the Michigan State Indian Law Clinic, assisted with this case, and always does amazing work in this space and did amazing work on behalf of the tribes here. And also Keith Harper, Ian Gershengorn, and the rest of the team at Jenner and Block. They represented the nation in front of the Supreme Court, and I was proud of the work that they did. And I'm just really proud of this outcome. It is one of those days where we can say, you know, we really have made a huge step forward in important ways. We have to keep very vigilant because there will be new attacks in the future, but I'm just really pleased to be able to give you guys some great news today to start your long day of committee meetings. The Breaking case is done, it's over, and we won.
Does anybody have any questions for Sarah? Keith?
Yes, Attorney General Hill, the number 7-2 is powerful. And in this particular case, I think that made a loud statement to the world. Do you believe that will dissuade others from these kind of challenges? Do you think that may be beneficial to us in that respect?
I think it will definitely be beneficial to us. I do not think it will dissuade them. I always have to remember that all the people who want ICWA to go away are just as smart and just as dedicated as I am, as all the people that work for the Cherokee Nation are. And they're working just as hard every day to take down the Indian Child Welfare Act as we are to support it. So I don't think I do think they're going to have a much more complicated path than they thought they were going to have. And so when they come back again, it's going to have to be a different sort of challenge, hopefully a more narrow challenge than this one, because I feel like the court really put to bed some of the challenges that were brought here. So it is definitely helpful. I love it if it made people stop. And if they read Justice Gorsuch, I have an affinity for him. He's my favorite. He wrote a concurrence, and his concurrence lays out the history. Justice Coney Barrett's is beautiful on the law. Justice Gorsuch goes into the history of what the act is and why it was required to protect Indian country. And I would love to live in a world where people would read that and take away the message that he's leaving there. But I'm not so naive as to think we live in that world, Counselor.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Coates.
My questions are kind of along the same lines, I guess. You know, I think this is a fantastic victory. When I read the headline, I literally just teared up, you know, because it's something that I'm sure all of us have been so concerned about what could happen here. The attorney for the adoptive couple has made some public remarks about going back into state courts, I think, and continuing to pursue this. As I'm understanding your explanation of Justice Coney Barrett's opinion, that she was pretty strong in closing off that avenue, actually. Am I understanding correctly?
So the one avenue that remains open, it's the equal protection avenue that the court simply said, Texas, you lack standing to bring this claim because you're not subject to equal protection because you're not a person. And the adoptive parents in this case can't bring this claim because it's not a case that this court can redress in front of this federal court. And the opponents of ICWA, these folks are talking about, well, that's fine. We'll bring the same equal protection argument in the state court. I'm not so sure that it's going to be as easy as all that to bring those. One of the reasons they brought it the way they did was because they could go in front of a judge in Texas that they felt they could sort of handpick a federal judge they wanted to shop this case to. Federal courts are going to follow federal law. I mean, state courts are going to follow the federal law, and it's pretty clear now what the law is. I'm sure that they will make many attempts to take it up, and they may, in fact, get it up in front of the Supreme Court at some point. But it is going to be a more difficult proposition for them than the way they had envisioned with this case.
Yeah. And so the equal protection is the understanding between the difference between race and political citizenship, and is it your feeling they were clear on that? Because I've seen some other analysis that Justice Kavanaugh in particular may have been a little
There's definitely 3 justices who are open to hearing that argument. Kavanaugh in his concurrence is one of them, and then you've also had Justice Alito and Justice Thomas, and they were obviously open to multiple reasons why they thought that this law should go by the wayside. So I don't take that challenge lightly. I think it's a fight that Indian country will have to engage in fight eventually. I prefer to have it under these circumstances that we have today versus under the circumstances we had in the Brackeen case.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great victory, and thank you and to your office for fighting the great fight. And it's a good day in Indian country.
It is.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Sarah, outstanding report. You have a wonderful day. You surely have brightened ours.
Yes, sir.
All right, from FOIA GRA, Gwen Terrapin. Hey, Gwen.
Good morning. It's good to see all of you today. We have 17 FOIA requests so far, no GRAs, 7 are outstanding, and everything's been updated on the website. And I also just had 2 new ones come in, so we've actually got 19.
Does anybody have any questions for Gwen? All right, good report.
Thank
Have a good
you.
day, ma'am. Next up, from the Tax Commission, Sharon Swepston.
Morning.
Good morning.
I think everyone has seen my report. If you'll look at motor vehicle, the April compared year-to-date to April last year, we're still down a little over 3%. I hope that continues to get better as time goes on. June is our month for boat renewals, so I think that'll make a big difference also. But I think and I have no way of knowing for sure, but I think a lot of it has to do with the economy, the interest rates and all of that, and they're just not buying a lot of new cars right at this time. But hopefully that will continue to improve. And on revenue and taxation, we're up 24.29%. Most of that is related to retail sales and alcohol sales. And also, if you look at our veterans tax exempt cards, we now have 446 of those issued. They can use that at any of our tribally licensed businesses, so for things like that. And then just FYI, in case you get a phone call, Catoosa Tag Office is closed today. We do not have electricity. We've tried to get an update of when we might have electricity, and we're getting told it could be as late as Saturday.
Wow.
So they said they still
That's
have
crazy.
a lot of businesses and homes without electricity. So as soon as we've put it out on the web, we've put it on Facebook, but in case you do get a call, that's the reason it's closed, is we just do not have electricity. And as soon as they get it back on, we'll get it back open. And I'll try to entertain any questions that you might have.
Does anybody have any question for Sharon? All right.
All right.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
From the Gaming Commission, Janice Purcell.
Good morning. I submitted my report. Does anyone have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Janice? All right, Janice, doesn't appear to be any. You have a good day.
You too, thank you.
And last but not least, from Human Resources, Samantha Hendricks.
On my way. So I submitted my report for this time, but I did add a little bit of information down at the bottom of the Human Resource report. You know, I did a comparison from year to year, just to kind of give us an idea of, you know, are we making progress, are we not? And so I keep track of that pretty regularly, but I thought I'd share those numbers with the council on the report, because I thought it would be interesting to see some of the changes and some of the improvements that we've done within HR. So, and you know me, I'm always bragging on the team because they've done an outstanding job on keeping up and with the change and the things that are happening. So I'll highlight just a few of those. I'm not going to go deep into that. And of course, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. But our open positions have decreased significantly by 43% from October to May of 23, October of 22 to May of 23. Today, actually, is our highest orientation number for new hires, which doesn't include transfers. We had 32 new hire employees in orientation today. So pretty excited about that. We're really, the team's really, I call it jamming to try to get people in quickly as we can. We're working on retention efforts because, you can always do the recruitment part of it, but it's the back end too, as far as recruiting and retaining employees. It's not just the recruiting piece of it. So to see those numbers actually go down, you really have to retain those employees and understand what their needs are. And then also, Cherokee Nation employee numbers have increased, like the overall total number of employees have increased by 9% from this time last year, and the applicants have increased by 62% since May of '22. Wow. So we've done some outstanding work in HR. I've been kind of holding these numbers, kind of waiting for the right time to visit about them and do a real good comparison of it. So we've had some, I call it a success story, because we've done a really lot of good things in HR, and we're continuing to do that. So, of course, I always like talking about recruiting. That's my favorite subject in HR. But other than that, you have my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Samantha? Councilman Callison.
Morning. This is probably your least favorite topic to talk about, but I noticed terminations. Are you guys always involved? I know we have them in each department that comes through. They'll tell us how many they've hired, how many they terminate. Does the termination process come through your office as well?
Termination process does, yes.
So do you represent who's getting terminated, or you neutral, or how does that actually take place?
Well, we're, as far as on the employee versus, we try to assist them through the process itself. Now, it just depends on if they've been here less than a year or more than a year, as far as the process. But we try to help them, we stay as neutral as we can, and we try very hard to help them through the process so we can make sure that we follow the steps and the policies, so.
Do you guys make the final decision, or does that come from somebody else?
That's not necessarily what HR, as far as making a decision on the termination, but we do assist and help that management team as far as making that decision.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Doc?
Yes, Samantha, you briefly mentioned the retention efforts. Can you kind of briefly summarize what we do on the retention end?
Well, we're doing a lot of training. We do a lot of training as far as with our portal that we just released in January. So it's a training, it's understanding what the department needs are. We understand if there's somebody that's, needs computer training, or it could be anything. So we're really working at putting a strategic plan together. We've looked at retention as we've gone along over this last year and a half, but we really need to. We're in the process of putting that strategic plan together. So I can probably come to you next meeting and give you just exact details of what we're looking at to give you some more insight. So.
Thanks, Samantha. Thank you, Chair.
Councilman Austin.
Samantha, your report's very encouraging. Thank you. And but I tell you, I've got to applaud you for coming prepared and helping us understand what your department is doing, and helping us understand how you guys, the work that you're doing. There's not any of us that are experts in your field, but you coming in here prepared really helps us do our jobs better. So thank you for that.
Great. Well, you're welcome. I'm here to help any way I can. So not just me, but my team is, I keep bragging on my team, because what are we without a team that really does a great job? So anyway, they've done outstanding. So glad that wasn't my phone. So.
$50 fine, sir. Anybody else? Hey, that's a great report. 6% is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
That speaks volumes. And I hope you understand that, we come with you with problems when we hear about it, and it's really good when you come back. Don't ever be bashful about telling us about your successes, because we want to hear them, because we want to give you kudos too.
Well, thank you. It's actually the team that has the kudos. So.
I understand.
But I just get to tell the story.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Old business, none pending. New business, Councilman Callison, will you take that, please?
Yes, sir. A resolution in support of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Green Country participating in accepting funds from the Sea Research Foundation / Mystic Aquarium to support STEM mentoring funded through the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. I put this in the form of a motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll get it. Any discussion?
I'd like to be added as a sponsor.
Okay. Councilman Austin wants to be our sponsor. Melvina? Anybody else? Rex? Josh? EO? Okay. And it needs to go to full council tonight. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Awesome. Okay, are there any announcements? Melvina?
I want to ask each one of you to be in prayer for Harley Buzzard. His son's in the hospital in Tulsa fighting for his life, so remember that family.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, this will be the last meeting, we won't see you until after the 4th, so the next rules meeting. So I'll tell you, for some reason, today was just, it seemed like a good day to be here. I don't know why. It's almost exciting to come here. Maybe it's because of Brackeen. Maybe it's because, I get to see Julia Coates today. I don't know. But it is a good feeling to be back with you all today. So having said that, I need one more motion.
Second.
Have a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We're adjourned.